How serious can it get between China on the one hand, Taiwan and its allies on the other? A record number of flyovers over Taiwanese airspace by China in the past week. This following military maneuvers. The tension seemed to be easing in the last couple of days. Now that a Wall Street Journal report has brought out into the open the special ops training the Taiwanese military by the U.S., it's anyone's guess what the next days and weeks have in store. Yachun Wang is. I know that the tensions in the South China Sea are always there. There's always flyovers. How bad is it this time?
If you ask me how bad, it really depends on where you see it, because I see many reasons why China is flying this many private jets for the very first time. 3 days in a row from their National Day, October 1st, October 2nd, October 4th. This is definitely unprecedented. But there are several reasons I can think of why they're doing this. First, national military parade, as always. Second, Xi Jinping is facing a lot of trouble domestically speaking. Power outage, lowering economic GDP growth, many other things happening. And I think there's another reason also that not only he's trying to find an immediate achievement for the domestic people to have more trust in him during the next election, even though we all know the elections.
But is this just saber rattling then?
I would say less so than before, but I'm still not certain. This is the million-dollar question. Is China going to put forth military actions or not? This is the questions that scholars are trying to figure out. However, I do think that not in recent years, because first of all, military deployment towards Taiwan, it does take years to prepare. And then now that China actually have to consider America, UK, Japan, Australia, all of these forces actually all together attacking this one source, because it has been calling for these allies for Taiwan in a way by posing all these military threats.
This report that U.S. special ops are training the Taiwanese military, is that just kind of an open secret, Pierre Haski, or does this raise the tension another notch?
It is raising the escalation because, there's this one China policy where the U.S. has recognized Beijing and dropped its recognition of Taiwan, but it's still protecting Taiwan. But having a military presence is unprecedented since 1979, since the breakup of relations between the U.S. and Taiwan. So this is a serious matter, but I think it goes with the escalation on the other side. I think the leak of that information was deliberate to show that the U.S. is ready to defend Taiwan. What is at stake here is not so much whether China is going to attack Taiwan, is whether China will succeed in having Taiwan fall like a ripe fruit. The Chinese are adepts of Sun Tzu, the military theorist, who said that the best battles are those who are won without fighting them. That means they want Taiwan to fall without having to fight for it. And for that, they try to isolate Taiwan, to show its allies that it's not worth fighting for it. There's a delegation of French senators who are in Taipei at the moment. The amount of pressure that has come from the Chinese embassy in Paris to try to discourage this delegation, these are French senators. I mean,
let's talk about that.
It's nothing.
Let's talk about that. It's like a red rag to a bull, this visit to Taipei of a delegation of lawmakers. And we could show you images of Senator Alain Richard. He's a former defense minister from the 1990s, awarded a medal by Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, Beijing responding in kind.
People like Alain Richard lack the basic respect and recognition of norms governing international relations. If not so, then they were kidnapping state-to-state relations out of self-interest. China strongly condemns and firmly rejects that. France should earnestly abide by the One China principle and not send any wrong signals to the Taiwan Independence Force.
Yeah, and Pierre Haski, besides politics junkies like you and me, who else remembers that Alain Richard was once the defense minister in France?
Nobody. Nobody. And that's where it's interesting, because they want to cut every single link, including the weakest one. You know, having a connection between the French Senate and Taiwan is irrelevant to the overall conflict in East Asia. And nevertheless, you have the spokesman of the foreign ministry devoting a whole section of his briefing to condemn this as if it was some major breach of the status quo. You know, and that's really the sign that they want to isolate Taiwan as much as possible, because they don't want to face a military assault, because a military assault would be a gamble for China. If the US come to the rescue of Taiwan, it can escalate, you know, between two nuclear powers.
But the news of this from this Wall Street Journal report that there's special ops there, it's the opposite. That the international community is getting more stuck in there, it seems.
You know, after the fall of Kabul, there was some speculation that the U.S. is weak. The U.S. has no strategy. The U.S. is getting back inwards. And what Biden has tried to show in the past few weeks, first of all with the alliance with the UK and Australia, AUKUS, and now with this announcement, is that, okay, we've left Afghanistan on a defeat, but because we are focusing on China. And focusing on China means defending Taiwan. So there is a lot of psychological warfare there.
Nico Haynes, do people underestimate Washington's resolve?
Well, I think people underestimate Xi Jinping's willingness and desire to actually reunite China. You know, he's the most powerful Chinese leader since Chairman Mao, and I've got no doubt that he's utterly determined to complete the communist revolution and to unite China under one party. And I think a lot of the foreign policy kind of community and pundits are actually underestimating the chance that there will be some sort of real conflict here, whether it's a direct armed struggle or not. And I think if you look at the US carefully, they agree with me, because they have been, you know, the fact that they've got people there training the special forces is, as you say, an escalation. I think the AUKUS deal is a huge indication as well, that the US was willing to blow up this huge deal and make this massive fight with France because they are so keen that Australia has these nuclear-powered subs in the region, and that there really is a strong united force in case something actually does go down in Taiwan.
Yeah, and we all got the jitters this Friday when we heard about a U.S. submarine, Nico, that had been damaged, or a few of the sailors on board injured. It's now safely back at dock in Guam. We don't know what happened, but it's getting tense.
Yeah, and with these things, there are always little skirmishes that come before major conflicts. And look, we're talking about a relatively long scale here. I think the most crucial thing, actually, if you look at this, is the China census data, which came out earlier this year and shows that we might actually be nearing the peak of China's powers. And when I say nearing, I'm talking about in the 2030s, early 2040s, perhaps. So in a relatively small timescale, if China wants to reunite its nation, it's going to have to move quite fast. So something could be on the horizon, I think, in the next 10 years.
Tania Rakhmanova, you investigated how Trump dealt with that part of the world. Are you surprised to see the Biden administration staying the course?
Yes, and our team, we are rather surprised, because probably we put too much hope in Biden, thinking that it will be so different, everything will be different, and they know how to deal it, even though we were told that he's not listening to the advisors. But on China, of all what we learned on China, what I'm doing now, you know, the history of China, I totally agree that Xi Jinping needs this. He needs a big thing to, first of all, and I know it from my country of origins and probably the communist past, you know, you can unite people against an enemy or for a big purpose, which is, it's better not, it's not to be economy, because that's complicated. So Taiwan is a great purpose for them. They are not in a hurry. Yes, we are speaking about this week, next week, but they are not in weeks, they are in years. So now they will test how far the West could go. And then the Taiwan is a democracy, so they will work on the Taiwanese people. And step by step, I think they will, well, I don't know, but they are doing, I think that they have a very well-thought politics. And I remember the last line in our Trump series, we were interviewing a Chinese, somebody, the advisor of the president. He said that America thinks that they are the most important country. We think that China is. So we will have conflicts. So what?
Wang, again, I ask you the question we asked at the outset, which is this any different? When you hear Pierre Haski talking about China's strategy of putting the squeeze on Taiwan, does Taiwan feel it?
Yes, definitely. I think you can see from the reaction this time from Taiwan and also our defense minister, they are definitely sending a signal to the international. We are a small island. We know that if we don't yell, if we don't cry, people are just going to overlook this. Look at how many things have already happened in this Friday. Taiwan has to yell and cry for its own rights, for its own democracy that it sees sinking under this humongous pressure coming from China. And again, I think the international actors, they sort of understand where the pressure is coming from, and that China, for the 2035 plan, it is looming. I know that after the year of COVID, we have realized that year passed by so quickly, and China, I think it is definitely preparing. It fights a battle, but it doesn't fight a battle that it will lose. So it's waiting for the U.S. to have a milder response. I think also after Kabul, it is testing the U.S. response. Does the U.S. still wants to be the world police, or it is losing its title in a way?
But it doesn't sound like it's leaving it.
Exactly, and I think that's what China wanted to make sense for itself.
Test the waters. Pierre Haski, there's that party congress next year in China, after which Xi Jinping will become the longest-serving leader since Mao. Does it all calm down after that?
No, because there's a deadline. The deadline is 2049, which is the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic. And by that time, China thinks that it has to reunite the whole Chinese family, which includes Taiwan. But also, in the next few years, the balance of power will be shifting slowly in favor of China, because China is putting lots of energy and a lot of money into its army. I went the first time in Taiwan in 1999, more than 20 years ago. And the balance of power was in favor of Taiwan at that time. The economy was stronger. The army was still stronger. Today, it's exactly the opposite. China's army is the second army in the world after the one of the U.S. The economy is the second one in the world after the U.S. And Taiwan knows that it cannot defend itself alone. And that's what's at stake at the moment.
One final question on this. Nico Haynes, you heard Wang saying that for the time being, the U.S. isn't blinking. The United Kingdom, does it have the stomach for this fight?
No, I don't think so, no. I think Britain will always follow along and do whatever the US does. And I think it has been really startling, even before the Kabul incident, that Joe Biden, I think even, in fact, when he was running for the nomination for the Democrats, let alone running for the presidency, he was already talking about China, really focusing on China, making China the new focus of American domestic political life. And I think he is planning, he won't be around for that much longer himself, but I think he is trying to set the US up for another, long battle against a foe on the other side of the world, and this time it's going to be China.
All right, another Cold War perhaps, and